Hi, welcome to our 5th out of 6 presentation tonight. My name is Cherise Pauly. I'm the Supervisor of Social Work and Attendance Counseling Services at Greater Essex County District School Board, and I'd like to welcome you. These presentations we're putting on are in combination with the Maryvale Adolescent and Family Services as well as us. And so tonight we actually do have a new presentation, new presenter that is actually from the Greater Essex County District School Board. It's Sarah Renaud, and she'll be presenting on dual roles regarding caregiver and academic coach.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Cherise, for that intro. As Cherise said, I'm Sarah Renaud, and I am a social worker and attendance counselor here at the board. So, as Cherise said, this is part of our Coping Together Caregiver series, and tonight we are going to talk about dual roles, caregiver and academic coach. So during our short time together, we are going to be talking tonight about the challenges brought on by the pandemic, the new role that we have taken on as an academic coach for our kids, strategies to effectively manage the difficulties faced with juggling being both a caregiver and an academic coach. And then finally, I'm going to provide some resources. And as Cherise said, there'll be some time for questions at the end. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we all know, has presented the whole entire world with so many new challenges. The challenges that we're going to focus on tonight and talk about are the ones that are really specific to caregivers, so all of us. Last year, our kids came home with a giant zip bag full of pencils, erasers, some books, and a whole lot of loose papers. At least that's what my kids came home with. But I know that all of us experience some version of this when schools shut down and moved to virtual learning. And this was the beginning of a brave new world called remote learning that we initially entered with very little warning and no preparation or experience. The new role that we have taken on as academic coach has, for some, resulted in stress, frustration, and anxiety. And not only is it felt by us, but in many cases, it's felt by our kids as well. As caregivers, most of us are there to try and help our kids with homework or assignments that they're doing, maybe problem solve when our kids are feeling overwhelmed by work or anxious about a presentation. But this experience has really seemed like we have needed to step up our game. And at times, we almost feel like an extension of our kids' teachers and an extension of school. And this experience, this new role that we've all kind of taken on has resulted in what's called mental load, which is a term for the invisible work involved in managing a household and family. And the mental load is not actually about doing the physical tasks that we do day to day, but rather it's the overseeing of those tasks. So this new role we've taken on has added to that mental load. And it's about being the one in charge of that never-ending to-do list of items constantly running around in your head, remembering what needs to get done and when, who needs to do it, delegating to different family members, and then making sure it actually gets done. And this is why sometimes mental load is also referred to as mental gymnastics. That makes sense. I get tired just thinking about that. Another challenge presented to us by the pandemic is a new and in many cases disruptive rhythm that we've had to find in our homes. In many situations, parents and kids are forced to adjust to a new rhythm of school and work at home. In other homes, parents are adjusting to having kids home during the day while they're at work. There are many different situations, but the common theme is that we all have had to adjust to a new rhythm in our household. Regardless of whether your kids are attending school in person, doing virtual learning, or paper packages, we are all supporting our kids academically more than we are used to, typically. And many of us are finding these tendencies that are coming out in us as an academic coach that might be fueled by fear, unrealistic expectations, and even our own histories with school when we were young, and the influence of social media. I actually excuse me, I have a friend who was doing math games online 7 days a week with her child in grade 6, who has a learning disability, because she was absolutely terrified that her daughter would fall behind and never catch up. It's also common to have these anxious thoughts about ourselves and our own abilities to help our kids. Am I doing this right? How can I even help them if I don't even get some of this? A lot of caregivers are placing a huge deal of pressure on themselves and high expectations in this role as academic coach. Social media. This is such a great way to connect with others, especially when we're not able to connect with people in person. And it can also be a really great resource when we need help or information about something. We even use social media to stay connected with our school community and find out what's happening in our kids' schools. And social media, like never before, can also fuel our insecurities and anxiety by comparing our own lives to others based on what we're seeing on Facebook or Instagram. And as humans, our brains are actually wired to believe everything that we tell ourselves. So if we are not aware of or not even noticing these anxious thoughts, we are just going to go on believing that they're true and that everyone else has it all together and we are falling behind or not doing a good enough job. As a caregiver, it's our job to ensure that our kids are safe, loved, cared for, learn right from wrong, have fun, know there's consequences, all these basic teachings that we do as parents and caregivers. As academic coach, we are assuming this added responsibility of ensuring that our kids can learn and excel academically. These roles often overlap, blend, and complement each other, but at the same time, they can collide and seem to smash into one another and just not so easily overlap. And then what? What do we do with that? How do we know when to be more caregiver and when to be more academic coach? At 8 a.m., does our caregiver role just kind of turn off and we put on an academic coach hat? And then at 3 p.m., we take that off and we're back to caregiver? I don't think so. At least that's not how it happens for me. So it's really important to find a balance. And I just think it's really important to note that, I've experienced these things as a parent that I described above, and this anxiety about whether we're doing enough and whether we're doing it right, and worrying about our kids falling behind. I thought for a long time, quietly, I was just believing these things and thinking, oh gosh, like I wonder if other people are thinking like this. And then I mentioned it to a friend and a couple of my coworkers, and I quickly found out that many other caregivers are sharing this same experience. Even people who typically manage anxiety and stress really well were having similar thoughts and feelings. So the point is that none of us are alone in this experience. So when we think about needing balance in our lives, I think it leads us to conclude that our lives are out of whack. And how do you realistically undertake a balancing act when your parenting and teaching / academic coaching responsibilities take place at the same time, under the same roof, simultaneously? Balance really requires us to be successful at separating these roles and keeping them within really specific parameters, like separate drawers in a dresser, but that just isn't realistic during stay-at-home orders or when our kids are engaged in any type of learning at home and needing that extra support. So instead of balance, it can be more helpful to think of it in terms of equilibrium, because equilibrium allows for flexibility. And when we think of our life in this way, new demands and additional stress can create mere shifts in our lives. So it means accepting, for example, that the amount of time, energy, and focus that we need to dedicate to certain aspects of our lives will constantly change depending on what our priorities are in that moment and where our attention is most needed at any given time. So how do we do that? How do we create this flexible equilibrium with these roles as caregiver and academic coach? Number one would be decreasing expectations for yourself. So remind yourself, I'm not a teacher and I'm doing my best. We are the people placing high expectations on ourselves. Number two, slow down. Letting some things unfold at a pace that's not rushed. That could look like letting your teenager go to bed a bit later and sleep in longer, which actually more closely resembles what their developing minds and bodies are wanting. If that leads to a quiet, calm morning and sets a positive tone for the rest of the day, then let it unfold. Slow it down and let it unfold like that, because it's not permanent. Number three, reach out to your child's teacher or school for help rather than trying to figure out this academic stuff all on your own. And number four, put your relationship first with, and I'm talking about with our kids. So when we are in the academic coach role, there's a lot of correcting going on. More than there typically might be, and that can cause friction between us and our kids and just add to our stress. So notice when this is happening and just do something to connect emotionally with your child in the moment, or even just, and that could look like sharing a laugh in the moment. So take a break, have a snack, empathize with them. I know how frustrating this is. Do something totally silly or surprise them by making like an animal noise or break into a song. Just anything to share positive emotion and connect in the moment will be helpful. Okay, so we're going to spend the remainder of our time together talking about how we can cope with the challenges of being a caregiver and academic coach. Research into the human brain tells us that we have more than 6,000 thoughts a day. According to cognitive behavioral theory, our thoughts impact how we feel and how we behave and respond to situations. So I mentioned earlier that as humans, our brains are actually hardwired to believe that our thoughts are always true. So when we're having worried thoughts like, what if my child falls behind and never catches up? Or I don't know how I'm going to do this. Or I have to be the best teacher to my child. We actually believe these like they are cold, hard facts. But if we really take a look at the things we're telling ourselves, I'm wondering, would you tell that to your best friend? Would you say to your best friend, your kid might fall behind and never catch up, so you had better be the best teacher possible and do absolutely everything right? I don't think so. I'm here to tell you that not all of our 6,000 plus thoughts are always true. If you are feeling not good enough, stressed out, overwhelmed, anxious, we are really able to have some control of those feelings by paying attention to and shifting our thoughts. And it sounds like a really simple concept. Change the way you think and you'll change the way you feel. And it is a simple concept. It's not always a simple task to change our thoughts, and it doesn't necessarily result in immediate results. However, with practice, it will 100% lead to feeling more in control and an increased ability to cope with stress. Sometimes it can be really hard to notice and change our unhelpful thoughts. But as I said in the last slide, just keep trying. If we keep trying and just keep at it, persist, it will become easier with practice and with time. So if you would like to try changing some negative self-talk, set aside some time for yourself and answer the question, what am I telling myself about my role as a caregiver and as my child's learning support or academic coach? Then put yourself in the mindset of a friend. If your friend was having the exact same unhelpful thoughts, what would you say to them? You might say, give yourself a break. This is a difficult year for everybody. Or you're doing your best and that's good enough. And we actually mean those things when we say them to our friends. So write these helpful thoughts down where you can read them several times a day. You may not believe them 100% in the beginning, but the more you read them, the more you will believe them. Another strategy is to acknowledge what is true about the thoughts that are causing your stress or anxiety. So for example, it's true that I'm spending more time in a teaching role with my kids than ever before. And then following that up with a coping statement or a helpful statement. So that would look like, it's also true that I'm doing my best and this will not last forever. Or it's also true that I can handle this. Really, there's no wrong statement that you're going to make. It's just about whatever is going to work for you and whatever makes sense to you. Be authentic. In her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, author Brené Brown writes, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. It is a collection of choices that we have to make every day to show up and be real. The choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen. I love this message because right now we are living in a time where social media is in the front seat with us of our lives. It's like this passenger right next to us that's always there. And if you are not actually on Facebook or Instagram, chances are that your kids are, your friends are, or your family are. And if you're not exposed directly to it, you're definitely hearing about it. If you find yourself stuck in a comparison spiral, as so many of us do, that would look like thinking to yourself, everyone's doing it better than me. I wish I was more like her or him. Look at what they're doing. I should be more like that person. All of these thoughts. This message about authenticity is really, really important. Writing down a coping statement is really helpful. So it's got to be personal, present tense, and positive. So some examples are, I am good enough. I am doing my best. I am valuable and unique. And then write it down and read it as often as you possibly can. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is defined by John Kabat-Zinn as paying attention on purpose in the present moment without any judgment. Research, there's been so much research done on mindfulness, and there are so many physical and emotional benefits brought about by mindfulness. Where chronic stress can actually shrink essential brain structures, the practice of mindfulness meditation can increase the mass of those same structures, leading to benefits such as improved memory, improved focus, better sleep, lower blood pressure, and reduced anxiety and depression. Even when you practice mindfulness for just a few short minutes every day, mindfulness meditation can lead to all these things, as well as increased self-awareness, self-acceptance, greater empathy, and just an overall sense of well-being. More importantly, mindfulness can provide a new perspective. So rather than identifying with this continuous stream of anxious thoughts that we have sometimes associated with these two goals that we're trying to find equilibrium with, we can identify with a deeper sense of awareness. And this is going to turn into an experience where we're able to tap into compassion much easier and not have it feel so exhaustive and difficult to find compassion for ourselves and also towards our kids. One way to practice mindfulness is called breathing kindness. So you would stand or sit with your back straight, keep your shoulders and head relaxed as you look forward. You can keep your eyes closed or open, whatever you're comfortable with. And you're going to breathe in through your nose. As you do, imagine that you're breathing in kindness and send this to the center of your body. Breathe out slowly through your mouth, like you're breathing through a straw. And imagine that you're breathing out negativity and sending it away from you. Practicing this 2 minutes every day, or as long as you like, is definitely going to lead to benefits. So I've included here some resources just specific to mindfulness. Anxiety Canada is a wonderful and credible resource to find free mindfulness meditations. And the other one here is Kristen Neff's website. And Kristen Neff is an author and professor who studies and has just dedicated her work to self-compassion. And in the link that I've provided at the bottom here, you can find a lot of free guided mindfulness meditations specifically on self-compassion. So if you are here tonight listening to this presentation, you are a caregiver, and therefore you have experienced sleep deprivation at some point in your life, and you know the impact, you've felt it. There is a lot of research to tell us that sleep affects our ability to cope with stress and be flexible in the way that we think. So in the spirit of everything we've talked about tonight, I just want to make a note about healthy sleep. If you are sleep deprived, just give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Accept that this is where you are right now, and maybe you'd like to make a change with respect to your sleep, and maybe not. That's okay. But the ideal amount of sleep for adults is 7 to 9 hours. And if you are looking to increase the amount of sleep that you get, or to improve the quality of sleep that you're getting, these are some of the habits that are going to be helpful. So engaging in physical activity and getting outside at least once a day. And physical activity can be anything at all, any way possible to just move your body. You can also get the benefits of being outside even if you're not able to go outside. So just sitting by an open window and breathing in the fresh air, let the sun shine on your face for even just a few minutes can be helpful, is helpful. Limiting naps and stimulants, including caffeine, as I sip my coffee here, is definitely going to be helpful, especially if you're struggling to fall asleep at night. Going to bed when you feel naturally tired, shutting off electronics or placing them in sleep mode so that you don't hear those notifications in your sleep. Even if they're not waking you up, your brain is not fully resting, and your brain is aware if you have notifications going off in your sleep. Keep it as dark as possible where you sleep, and when you wake up in the morning, expose yourself to daylight right away. This is something that is really helpful for your brain. So even if you just go over to the window or open the curtains, that would be good. And some people benefit from having white noise in the background while you sleep. I feel like we could spend a whole night talking about healthy sleep habits and how vital they are to coping well, but we obviously don't have that amount of time. So I've just put two resources, actually 3 resources up here that you can take a look at and check out if you would like to improve sleep. So the National Sleep Foundation, tons of great information. An app called MindShift is from Anxiety Canada. And again, they have support for improving sleep on the MindShift app. And if you're wanting to improve your sleep habits, the absolute best place to start is to just track your current habits. Doing that alone and nothing else will result in change. So you can find a free tracking form called a sleep diary at Psychology Tools, and I've listed that on the screen. Gratitude. Being able to appreciate the positive aspects imposed on our household by this difficult and worrisome time, we can find ourselves better able to cope with the uncertainty of daily life during the pandemic. This deliberate focus on even such tiny, small benefits is one strategy that can help build and sustain resilience, even when we might otherwise be feeling really trapped and overwhelmed. And the best way to benefit from practicing gratitude is to intentionally notice new things that you're grateful for every day. Say it out loud to someone else, or write it down and give it to someone, post it on social media. You could write a gratitude letter to someone who had an impact on you that you feel like you've never properly thanked. You could share the day's grateful moments around the dinner table or the breakfast table. And those types of conversations that are going to follow that are definitely going to lead to even more reasons to give thanks and be grateful. Resources. So in addition to the ones that I listed right in the presentation, I've put the public board website up here. And if you click on parent supports, there is a ton of information to support your child with their learning under that tab. So really in that academic support role, you're going to find lots of information there. And also on the public board website, the mental health and well-being section has a ton of resources and just information related to mental health. The Maryvale Adolescent and Family Services website has a ton of great information, in particular under the links and partnerships tab. They have a very extensive list of community resources, which is awesome. And to discover more about our series, you can visit the same websites that I listed on the last slide, Public Board and Maryvale's website. This is the end of my formal presentation, but I do just want to express my gratitude for everybody being here tonight, and yeah, I just want to wish everybody well, and thank you.